Well, welcome back to Mountain Jim Card Collectibles. Hope you're having a great week so far. So today I found out some big news from Fanatics. Mainly good news and some bad news, but overall it is what it is. If anyone watches my channel, they know that I'm not a big fan of Michael Rubin and his gigantic monopoly. But I'm not, the only one who's not impressed, because this just came out today, an article, and this is from Morning Star. It's provided by PR Newswire, but it was just printed on August 12th, 2025, today. So, Fanfirm, which is a small Australian company, claims their recent win in the Federal Court of Australia is a historic win over their large U.S. competitor, and one that has been coming since trademark disputes began between the two companies in 2010. So, this thing has been, bubbling for quite a while. Okay, so Fanfirm, who have sold Fanatics brand apparel since 1997, and on the other hand, Fanatics LLC, which is owned by billionaire Michael Rubin and Jay-Z, and many of the top leagues in the U.S. So I like that. I like that the top leagues in the U.S. didn't win, Jay-Z didn't win, and good old Michael Rubin didn't win this thing in Australia. So like it says here, up until last year, Fanatics LLC sold licensed sports apparel bearing Fanatics branding for the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and other teams and leagues into Australia via their website. But then it says here, however, the Australian company Fanfirm owns trademarks that include the word Fanatics across various trademark classes, including for clothing and sportswear, and has first use rights in Australia, having existed in the market in various forms since 1997. So they've been there for quite a while. The Australian company began legal proceedings in 2022 against Fanatics LLC in the Federal Court of Australia for trademark infringement. So, this has been going for a while. In July 2024, the Federal Court of Australia delivered a judgment that found, amongst other things, that Fanatics LLC had infringed Fanfirm's trademark rights, and that Fanatics LLC's own trademark for Fanatics for online retail store services featuring sports-related and sports team brand clothing and merchandise should be partially canceled. All right. So in 2024, November 2024, I should say, Fanatics LLC appealed that 2024 decision. And so both parties eventually returned to court. But now this is what I love. However, the three judges unanimously dismissed those claims and a further win for the Australian company. Yes. The combined effect of the first instance and appeal judgments is that no Fanatics branded jerseys or associated Fanatics brand apparel can be offered for sale or sold in Australia. So, they can still do their other things over there, but what's so great is they can't do what they're known for, apparel. The NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and other leagues, players' associations, team owners, and various players' unions have invested in Fanatics LLC, which I wish they never would have done, who make various apparel for the leagues and some players. Many thousands of Fanatics brand items that are currently viewable on the Fanatics LLC website will not be available for sale in Australia under the judgment. Whoop, whoop. I love that. I like it that it goes against the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and the NHL. I like it that all the bad actors who really don't care about the fans and the collectors, they obviously only care about breakers. Well, guess what? They lost. And they lost for a good reason. They tried to bully themselves into the Australian market. They got hit with trademark claims. Good for them. And then this comes from the owner and founder of FanFirm, which I wish FanFirm would come over here and start to beat up on Fanatics here in the U.S. That'd be awesome. We love North American sports leagues in Australia, and Fanatics LLC have said that Australia is their third biggest market for apparel sales. So while it's a big loss for them, it's a monumental win for us. Think about that. Australia is their third biggest market. And they can't sell their stuff there anymore. And then we never doubted we would win. The evidence was clear from both parties. We had sold merchandise with Fanatics branding for over a decade before they began to use that brand. It really was David versus Goliath. We are relieved but ecstatic. And it's only fair, you know. They've had that trademark, you know, for a lot longer than, you know, Fanatics. And it's in their own home country. So this is the right legal judgment, in my opinion. Here you can see like their Fanatics brand. I like their Fanatics branding, you know. You got a couple like clowns on there more than I like our Fanatics LLC. I'm just so burnt out of these monopolies in the USA. I just, you know, if we could just get more factories on our soil, more competition, you know, less monopolization, the US would be so much more fun. I mean, I always like to bring up the fact that there's 6.5 million manufacturing factories in China versus our approximate 700,000 manufacturing factories in the U.S. That's a harsh number. That's why life in the U.S. is so tough. That's why we're always bending the knees to these damned monopolies like Topps Fanatics. I wish it would end. But then Fanatics went ahead and they're launching their Fanatics launches the Fanatics ONE loyalty program. I like to call it the Fanatics 1% loyalty program because all your money is getting sucked up with straws for the 1%. And who's part of that 1%? Jay-Z, Beyonce, Michael Rubin. They're the profiteers of our pain. Don't pretend they're not. That's the nature of a monopoly. They profit off of pain. Lack of choice. So this comes from Sports Business Journal, and this just came out today, August 12th, 2025. And this just gets into how they are creating this loyalty program that they call Fanatics ONE. And it's going to go over, their various, sale categories that goes from trading cards and collectibles, sports betting, events, and its core vertical apparel, which they just lost in Australia, which is such a big win for people like us, the people at the bottom of the monopolistic totem pole. And so you can go ahead and use their fan cash as kind of a reward for your purchases across their entire monopoly. And, you can also use on the Fanatics app, its flagship online store, and the Fanatics Sportsbook and Casino, and could include additional feature integrations. Fanatics ONE will roll out in the U.S. initially with further plans to expand globally. And I could care less, To me, this is part of the plan. Fanatics plan to monopolize everything they can and take all your money in every shape and form. I'm surprised they're not trying to buy gas stations. I'm surprised that, they probably will. I'm surprised they're not taking over online, Google. Who knows the way Fanatics is going? Let's take over the world. And I am burnt out, So I recommend reading that article or reading more about it if you're interested. I just think it's their Fanatics 1% loyalty program. We have to enrich, the 1% that's tied to Michael Rubin and his company. And who are these people tied to his company? Well, we're finding out more and more day in and day out as, the drip drip continues. Yeah, I've known Jay-Z's been tied to it, but I pulled this Google Gemini AI overview up today. And, if you watch my previous video about the white diddler, the reverse Oreo hug with little baby, and, why a lot of people are questioning, why Michael Rubin would be, kind of hugging little baby like that. But we're finding some of the players in Fanatics, like this AI overview. Jay-Z owns a 25% stake in Mitchell & Ness, a sports apparel company acquired by Fanatics in 2022. While Fanatics owns 75% of Mitchell & Ness, the remaining 25% is held by a group of investors that includes Jay-Z, Meek Mill, Maverick Carter, Lil Baby, and the D'Amelio family, according to Complex. Jay-Z's investment in Mitchell & Ness was part of a larger deal where Fanatics acquired the company for $250 million. So this explains, why we saw, this white party that Michael Rubin had, last year in 2024, where we're seeing these guys, and these ties, to Michael Rubin, Meek Mill, Lil Baby. And Jay-Z, through his entertainment company Roc Nation, invested approximately $350 million in Fanatics in 2021. Now, this investment was part of a larger funding round that brought Fanatics' valuation to $18 billion. While Jay-Z is a significant investor, Fanatics also has numerous other investors, including SoftBank, Eldridge, Silver Lake, and Insight Partners. Additionally, Jay-Z is a co-founder and owner of Fanatics Betting and Gaming. Okay, so overall, how do you feel about this news? I mean, the thing in Australia is such an awesome win for people like us. I'm glad that their third biggest market has been wiped off the map for a while. We'll see if they try and take it back to court in Australia, which they very well could. Fanatics tops Michael Rubin. He is what he is. We got into the Fanatics 1% loyalty program. I like to argue it's a program, that helps the 1%. If you want to be on the bottom end and fund their lifestyle, that's all, your decision, not mine. Everyone has, a free choice to do what they want. And then we start to dig into, these owners of Fanatics and, how Jay-Z is such a big owner within this organization. And you have to realize, he's one of the profiteers of our pain. Don't pretend he isn't. Everyone has a choice to do what they want with business. I just wish that Jay-Z and all of his cash would step out of this business deal, along with these other people who are involved with it too, like Lil Baby and these other rappers, and let collectors, people who buy apparel, get a better deal, because these monopolies they're just not good for anybody. They're only good for the people on top. If you want to lie to yourself and say that monopolies are awesome, I've met people like that, but you try and argue with them, their argument always breaks down. Yeah, they might walk away, monopolies are awesome, but typically monopolies are not good for an economy at all. So anyway, how do you feel about all this news from Fanatics? I'd like to thank my subscribers. You're really helping out my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And I hope you have a great day, and tune again for the next episode of Mountain Jim Card Collectibles. I'm out of here. Bye.